Hello everyone, I'm Alfian and today we are going to solve the LeetCode challenge on the challenge number 66 on the easy difficulty called the +1. And for this particular challenge, we are tasked to given a large integer represented as an integer array, which is digits, where each digits of the every elements is the certain position digit of the integer. The digits are ordered from most significant to least significant in left to right order. The large integer does not contain any leading zero. Increment the large integer by 1 and return the resulting array of digits. For this example right here, as per number 1, we have the input of digits of the array 1, 2, and 3, and then the output should be 1, 2, and 4 in the form of array. The explanation says the array represents the integer 1, 2, 3, and incrementing by 1 gives 1, 2, 3, added by 1 is 1, 2, and 4. And that way we return the resulting array in the form of array 1, 2, and 4 instead of integer like this one. And for this example number 2, we have 4, 3, 2, 1, and the output is 4, 3, 2, and 2 because it is added at the end of the array. And the explanation, the array represents the integer 40 through 1, and then just like on the example number 1, it is the same thing, the same flow. And for this example 3, this is the most interesting part, that we have the only one element of the array, which is 9, and then the output should be 1 and 0. Why is it should be 1 and 0? It's because incrementing 9 by 1 is equals to 10, and then 10 will be added by 1 in the front of the existing array of digit. Let's say we have only one element of digit, then the resulting element will be two elements of digit. Is because 10 takes extra space for 1 to be inserted at the front of 0, and then 0 will be deducted from the 9 plus 1. Okay, so let's solve this out by creating a return digits as it is, and we are trying to mute the digits as it is in place, so without extra variable, and then we just muted the digits array in place. And we are using the TypeScript. If you want to use something else other than TypeScript, then go ahead, I encourage you to do so. And we have the function called the +1 that takes one parameter called the digits in a form of number array, and the output, the expected output, is also in a form of array of numbers. And for this function, we need to declare the first one should be adding the digits, adding 1 to the end of the array of digits, and we determine the every end of the digits by using the length property of the digit as the end of the digit, and then we muted this one and incremented by 1. So in digits, inside of the square brackets, takes digits and then dot length property and then -1. Why we are using -1 is because the length property has 3, let's say this digit has 3 elements, and the length property has the value of 3, and then we use the -1 in order to get the real last element or the last index of the array, because we are working on array and it should always starts from 0, index 0 here, and then index 1 is pointing to the 2, and then the index 2 is pointing to 3. So that is why the last element is pointing to the 3 minus 1 is equals to true, and then that way we are at this one by 1 using the plus operator, plus equals operator, and that way we are adding 3 by 1 and then using by 1, and it returns 4 as the answer. We can leverage this filter by using the, instead of plus equals to 1, we can use the plus plus, but I still doubt this because we are working on array with an array element, and it is not the exact integer variable, which we can just increment it by 1 using the plus plus operator, and then we can keep it using the plus equals 1 that way. Okay, so let's run this out to see if it works, and we have 2 correct answer. The expected output is as it is, but for this case 3, the output is 10 equals to 1 and 0, and we should separate the 10 into the 1 and 0. How do we do this? We can declare a check if the last index is 10. If it is 10, then we are going to decrement it by 10 and then returning 0, and the 1 will be added as the carry to be continued with the index after the last index minus 1. To achieve this, we can use a for loop. Using for loop, for let I equals, instead of using 0, then we use the digits dot length and then minus 1, and that way we are starting from the last index of the array, and that we move as we iterate the array, then we move this one from the right to left instead of the left to right as usual. And then as long as I is higher or equals to the 0, index 0 right here, then we still continue using the I minus minus instead of I plus plus. Why? Is because we are decrementing the array using the I as the index, as the pointer of the iteration. So we start from the end of the array, and then as we iterate over the array, it moves one by one to the end of the array or the beginning of the array. Okay, so the next one, we can add a check if the current index, which is the digits of the I, is strictly equals to 10. If it is, then we can deplete if it is 9 plus 1 is equals to 10, then we don't assign digits as 10 of the current element. Then we need to mutate the digits of the current element as 0, and that way we are returning 0 instead of 10. How do we move the 1 or the carry to the next integer or to the next index of the array? We can add a check. For the first one, we can add an edge case to check if it is already on the index 0, which is from the example 3 right here. We have index 0 of 9 containing 9 as the element. Since it is already 0, then we need to use 1 added in the front of the 9, which is 0, and this is used to be 9, and then 1 is added at the front or in the front of the existing digits array. How do we achieve this? We can add a check. It's very easy. We can add a check if the current index is already on the index 0. Since on the case 3 right here, example 3, we are already on the index 0. If it is, then we need to somehow move the carry in the front of the existing index of 0. To achieve this, we can use unshift method. Unshift method of array instances adds the specified elements to the beginning of an array and returns the new length of the array. Let's say we have the console of Array.unshift. We muted the array in place in the unshift method and added 4 and 5 respectively, and that way we are returning the new array from the array itself. That is why it's called mutating array. We are mutating using the unshift and then returning the new array from the modified version from the unshift method, and we are adding 4 and 5 as the first and second parameter of the unshift method, and we return 4 and 5 in front of the 1, 2, and 3. How do we, let me refresh the page, let's run this again. And how do we move this? How do we add the 1 in front of the existing array if it is already index 0? It's already reaching the end of the array of digits. We are using the unshift method and then takes only 1 as the only parameter, and then we run this, simply run this, and we got 1, 1, 2, and 3. And let's say the array, we have the array of 0 or array of 9 for the case 3 right here, and then we mutate the array of the index 0 and then add this by 1, and then we add this by 1. We can add a check if the array of the index 0 is already equals to 10, then we mutate the array 0 is equals to 0. And let's run this again. Let's say we already have 9 right here, and then we add this array of the index 0, which is 9, and then add this by 1, mutate the element of the array. And since it is already array 0 is already equals to 10. Let's console.log to see if it's already 10, erasing array 0, and then let's run this. We have the value of 10 from the console.log right here on the line number 3, and we have 10. Since it is strictly equals to 10, then we muted the array of the index 0, which is 9 right here, which is 10, no longer 9, and then we muted this as 0, and that way we are returning 0, and we are using the unshift method. That way we are adding one extra one in the front of the existing array variable right here. So what about unshift using 2? Let's run. We are adding 2. What about using 2 and then 0 and then 3? And we got 2, 0, 3 and then 0, which is 0 on the last element, which is the original element from the operation right here, from this part of the operation. Okay, so let's solve this by using the unshift method, using digits, unshift, and we add 1, and then we break the for loop because we are already reaching the end of the index. Then we no longer iterate over the array, and we just break this for loop, and we just return the digits. Break statement is used to break over the for loop, and we no longer use the iteration no more, and then we just move to the next processing of the code. Okay, so we already handled the example 3 right here. If it is already reaching the end of the index, which is index 0, what about if we are still reaching on the, let's say we have 4, 3, 2 and then 9. Let's say if 9 is added by 1 and then it's returning 0, muted on the 0, and then how do we move the 1 as the carrier into the 2 right here, added to the next element? It is fairly easy. We can use an else check. If it is not index 0, which is the last index, if it is not the index 0, then we need to add the digits of the current iteration using I and then -1, and that way we are addressing the next pointer of 1, and then we muted this one by 1, muted the next of the iteration by 1 before the iteration really happens. Okay, so let's run this code to see if it works. Okay, so that's about it. I hope you understand my explanation. If you still don't understand, you can ask me in the comment section, or if you have any better solutions regarding this challenge, tell us what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.